Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. We are here, we are thriving, we are at peace. Why is that? We have finished the Zodiac Academy in full force. She is done, and I read and finished this final book, Restless Stars, book 9, till 2 a.m. last night, and I woke up this morning feeling so sad that I feel like I'm not seeing these characters anymore. They've been such a big part over the last month for me as I've been reading these books and going on this journey, that like the idea of not seeing them but knowing they're okay, it was such a bittersweet feeling. And I'm like, I can't believe it's over. But at the same time, this book had such a great, satisfying ending that it put my soul at ease. I truly, biggest summary out of this whole thing is I'm at peace. I'm at peace with everything we went through to get us here. And I was so happy as to how this book ended the way that it did. Now, I give this book a 3 to 5 stars, and you may be asking, you just said it was so great. Why? The ending's so great. But there are some parts of this book that I feel like were either loose ends or just really didn't need to exist. And I had such a hard time giving it higher than a 3 for this reason. I felt similar about book 8 and 8.5, that I surprisingly liked it more than I thought I would, but there were still some things that I was like, not great. This isn't great. And that's some things that happen in this book, same effect. And I'm trying not to be too critical. But at the end of the day, like, there's so much I loved about these books that we're going to start with talking about that first. Before we get started, I will say that as soon as I got this book, I looked right away at the pages like this, because we know that a black page represents another POV. And if you're looking at it just without cracking the book open and you're looking at it, look at all of those black pages. And that's the end. So I automatically was like, I can't wait to get to that part. We know that if there's so many POVs back to back, then shit gets serious. Like, things are happening, and I have to assume it's the big battle. Like, we've been leading up to this. I have to assume. And I was right. Like, pretty much the battle takes up a third of this book, which I really enjoyed that it gave it the time it needed. We just went through hell and back reading all these books to get to the final act, the end game. And if they shied over it and didn't give it the detail it needed, the triumph it had, the loss, then I would have been super disappointed, because it's kind of like Harry Potter with the Battle of Hogwarts. Like, you go through all of this only to get to the end, and they made a whole movie about it pretty much, right? So I was so happy. But same with this. The ending was so detailed. We'll touch on to it a little bit more, but actually, we may just touch on it now. What the heck? The ending for this book, like, when the fight really first broke out, there were so many cards that were played that I feel like both sides didn't expect. And as a reader, I truly didn't expect it either. Like, Lionel had a couple like things up his sleeve, and so did the Vegas. And I feel like all of the work that we were putting into certain storylines, as much as we didn't know where it would take us, it kind of came forward in the end. And that's similar, like, say for example with the stones. Like, we keep alluding to these stones, and they're going to be like what saves us, because Gabriel at the end of the day keeps seeing that he only sees death in our future, and like, he doesn't see a way out of this, but he's going to keep it to himself because he just doesn't want to, like, tarnish the spirit of people thinking that there's hope. And so at the end of this, the stones did play a part in this, obviously, and I was happy that plot point came full circle, because I feel like the stones and the fight for the stones, forming the guild, that plot in general really dragged out throughout these books. And so in truth, I was glad that it paid off and it ended, because I don't think I could handle another, like, oh, we're wasting our time. Oh, what do the stones do? We don't know. How do we activate them? We don't know. Like, it got so repetitive that, like, that's plot point dragged for me. So I was glad they came into play at the end of this. The Vegas were also gifted these like little dragons that kind of helped sway the battle as well, which I thought was really cute and just really reminded me of Game of Thrones a lot, actually. So it's like, oh, that's so nice. Tharax, the shadow brother to Darius and Xavier now, he was I loved his character in this in general, but at the end, he really kind of came forward and picked the side he wanted to be on, which was the Vega side. One, because he was just trying to learn all there is about being on this world, and for somebody who was just dealt what he was dealt, like, he came into this world not asking to be tethered to those four souls, not asking to be a shadow creature that is feared. Like, he just didn't he was trying to navigate who he wanted to be versus what people assumed he was. And I thought that was a really great plot point with Darius, because Darius was always shadowed by like being Lionel's son and like affiliated to that name and being misunderstood in those ways. So like their relationship and them tying together and fighting together at the end of this book was also, I thought, really well done. I was really here for a lot of the Thorax, that's what I'm going to call them, scenes in this, because I just felt like that was a really interesting character that they brought in, and I loved it, and I loved how they closed off that storyline as well. What else was I going to say? The veil. So one part of this that I did not realize coming in, and I was so happy, was that Tori managed to summon the dead to help them in this fight. And I just didn't expect that. Like, I knew that the dead would be watching, probably channeling some energy down to them, like altering the odds a little bit to help them wherever they could, because they just didn't have that kind of pull from where they were, but they fully materialized in some stone thing. So they were physically fighting the fight with them in this. And it was so beautiful. I didn't expect it. I didn't expect them to like see their parents, and even Lionel sees dad and all of these things. So I thought that was so cool. And I like literally was dying at all of those sequences, and it was great. Lionel's death, I feel like a lot of people kind of complained that was like such a unsatisfying way to kill off like the main bad villain, but at the end of the day, like Lionel, I feel like how he died was a complete testament to the coward that he always has been, but he's denying this whole time. So I didn't mind how he died, to be honest. I felt like it really showed light to who he really was as a character, running away. As much as he's all big and bad, he really isn't. Like, he hid behind so many different weapons and stuff like that, and like alliances. And so yeah, I did not mind that at all. I actually really enjoyed it. Yeah, we're going to touch on some other parts earlier in this book. So at the beginning of this book as well, Darius, so at the end of book 8, they kind of allude to Darius being alive, but they didn't really give it a lot of attention because that wasn't the focal point of the ending of that book. It was that everyone was bending the knee and supporting the Vega cause. So as I thought at the beginning of book 9, it was all about Darius and everyone's happy reactions. Xavier, Lance, the heirs, everyone hugging him, asking all their questions, him kind of alluding to all the people he's met beyond the veil and how proud they are of everybody. And it just was so sweet. And because the Vegas technically were trapped and the star was impersonating them, the star kind of was distant. Like, it didn't hover around the group as much, probably because it knew it would get caught as not being the Vegas if it even had a conversation with any of the heirs. But regardless, the Vegas were kind of distant at the beginning. And so it really gave Darius all the attention that we needed for his return. And it's completely paid off. Same thing with the battle. They gave it so much attention that everything paid off. And I was so happy about it. Also, throughout this, that made me laugh is that we know that Darius was kind of indirectly there when Caleb and Seth had sex for the first time. And so throughout this, him and Tori kind of make jabs at them, but not like directly saying they know. And it kind of is just comedic. Like, I really enjoyed like the fun of all of that, especially while they're trying to really navigate how they're being together and whatnot. And then Caleb out of nowhere, and I love Caleb. We talked about this. I love Caleb's character. He decided to take the opportunity to challenge his mom, gain complete, control of his choices by being now a celestial counselor. No one can question his choices. And he did that to like, no one can question the choice of the person he loves. So he can go and really, truly embrace and confess his feelings for Seth. And I feel like he hasn't done that yet. Like, he's dabbled, but he hasn't went full force like Seth has with admitting he loves him and everything. And did Caleb not do it in like such a surprising fashion that I was like, oh, this is so Caleb. And I love it. He literally went to everyone was trying to film what seemed like a propaganda ad to like get people to fight for the Vega cause, whatnot, and Caleb took it upon himself to waltz right in to the streaming live stream and literally confess to the world how much he loves Seth, wants Seth to be his, and it was so beautiful. And then Darius obviously being like, it's about time, and like that whole comedic aspect, and like, you knew, and then he like actually explained that he was there when they first had sex, and it was just so funny. Loved all of that. Seth and Jerry in this book. Jerry specifically, guys, I can't. So Jerry continuously tries to like say her last words. And what I mean by that is like she fights and then she's like, oh, this is the end for me. Goodbye, my queens. Like she just continuously is so theatrical where she keeps thinking it's her end and keeps saying like, Max, say bye to everyone for me. Like say bye to everyone for me. Like but she's not going anywhere. And I'm just literally like, Jerry, shut up. Shut up. Maxie boy will not let you die. No one's going to let you die. So stop making it seem like you're dying. And stop saying your final words. Stop it. And so at one point, my eye was just twitching because she did that a couple times in this book. And I was like, Jerry, shut up. But their relationship, I didn't expect anything grand in gesture. I feel like that's just a testament to the characters that these two are, Max and Jerry. So their relationship, very sweet. I was here for it. Yeah. And then so Darcy and Lance get married, get engaged, and that was really like a soft sentimental part in this book, which I absolutely loved. Lance got everyone to like help contribute to Darcy's engagement ring, and it was just so family focused, and I loved it. Yeah, and then I also have to just mention, because I know we mentioned that the people from the Vale come down to fight in the fight, but they also, like, Diego was there too. Like, there was just so many loose ends that were coming together in that battle, which I loved. Okay, so, like, when it came to, like, some negatives here is that this star, that whole plot point with the star, I truly thought was so unnecessary. Like this curse in the Vega line, the star being like what's supposedly a stronger villain than Lionel, and Lionel trying to partner with it to kind of like weaponize him, whatever. When the star took over the Vegas in terms of impersonating them, I thought that this star was going to wreak way more havoc than it did, and I was prepared to be upset, but I wasn't really, because the star really didn't do that much. Like he was very one-noted, a very boring contribution to the story in my opinion. Like he had no personality. He just wanted some Trinity. He was like, I want the Trinity, but didn't have any passion behind him being a villain. Like we don't know anything really about his drive, and I feel like because of that, this villain that was just thrown in was kind of like half-ass thrown in. So anything in regards to this character, I was like, he's just there. Like there's no sustenance there, so like I can't invest in him. And I was like, let's just get this plot point out of the way so we can focus back on the building up to defeat Lionel, because that's the villain I choose to believe is the key villain. Same with the Shadow Princess as well. Like they're more satisfying when they go than this villain that just popped up at the end of book 8. So it just, that whole plot point didn't need to exist for me, and I was very happy when the Vegas regained essentially like their holds in their bodies, whatever, because I was like, thank God that we're not stuck in this weird limbo, because this is so unsatisfying as a star taking over their body and doing nothing really with it. Like, yeah, he murdered a bunch of people looking as them, but like, I don't know. It wasn't as impactful as I thought that star was going to be in threatening their story. So I was a little bit surprised. The stones and the guild stuff, I feel like that plot point really dragged on for so long in this book series, where they were just getting frustrated, like Seth's getting frustrated. They spend so much time for this and like it's not paying off. In the last act, it does come full circle, which I'm glad it did, but I was really happy that plot point's done, because I feel like I was not in it as much as I should have been, or maybe I just wasn't invested in it based on how much it dragged out. I don't know. So when that ended, and then at the very end of the book series as well, he picks the guild masters, not guild masters, he's the guild master, but he picks like the guild, like the members in the guild, and it's everyone we assumed it would be, it's everyone we love, and that was really great to kind of see that come full circle. One thing they did mention in this book, though, a couple times, especially with Seth and Caleb, when they were trying to envision what their life would be after the war, like, will the Vegas have a council? Like, will they be counseling them? Will they be doing regular jobs? Like, it was a good interest that they gave to that kind of plot. However, when the Vegas actually were crowned, they, like, the Celestial Council idea went, pfft, like it just evaporated. Like, yes, everyone became part of the guild, but the idea of a Celestial Council didn't really exist. So I wasn't sure if the guild was intended to replace that. And if that was the case, then why did they even like give us those scenes about will they be Celestial Council or not? If the guild was always meant to replace it, I don't know. But yeah, so I feel like that plot point kind of just evaporated, and I was really interested in the Vegas asking them to join them and all of this stuff, right? So I don't know, like I feel like that just kind of was a loose end. They didn't really tie in very well for me. And then also Zodiac Academy. So like the school itself, I genuinely was half expecting, because they do a flash forward, which is super sweet of everyone having kids. They do a couple different flash forwards as the kids were growing. So it's not just like one time jump, it's a couple. And they didn't really tie into what happened to Zodiac Academy, this school, like, and how they meant to navigate that. It was kind of one of those things, like the principal died in the battle, and so a lot of the teachers have died as well. So like it's one of those things where I'm just kind of like, so what ended up happening to the school, that we did all this development to understand the world, but the school is no longer a thing? Like, was it destroyed? Like, it didn't really tie into that. And I half expected, similar to the ending of Harry Potter, like when their kids hit a certain age because they did so many time jumps, that they would be attending Zodiac, and that's how everything would conclude. But it didn't. Zodiac it just didn't really allude to that at all at the end. Like, we don't know what happened to the school. And I feel like that was a pretty big loose end that they didn't tie up well, and especially because this is the Zodiac Academy. So that one for me, I was kind of like, oof, they could have done something, anything to say what they did with the school, right? So so at the end of the day, like I really did enjoy this book in general, way more positives than there are negatives. It was a book that I felt was paced in a way that was good. There was some drawn out parts. There was a little bit of fluff, not as much as the prior books, but in general, I really did enjoy everything this book brought forward. There was just so much heart, so much satisfaction with the ending, and it was beautiful, and I loved it, and I'm so happy that everyone is happy at the end. That's all I ever freaking wanted, and yeah, so it's really good. Would I recommend Zodiac Academy to friends and family? I absolutely would. Would I summarize it in 2 words? Is emotional roller coaster. That is exactly what this book series is. You have to go around and go along with the ride to get the satisfaction you need. You need to experience all the damage. As exhausting, as horrible as it is, you need to do it. So it's one of those things that I would give that disclaimer right away. In terms of the trajectory of how these books even went, in a sense, the first book, I will admit that you had to kind of I love the world building in that book. But obviously there's some aspects in that book that are a little bit harder to read in terms of setting the tone for what the rest of the books will be. And I always say to people that if you're going to start, just really get to book 2, because I feel like book 2 and 3, I devoured it. It was just so educational in terms of their world, in terms of the character development. I loved it. Book 4, 5, and 6 had the emotional pull that I didn't know I was going to experience, but I experienced it, and they were harder for me in terms to swallow, but they are the heart, I feel like, of these books is those 3, and I haven't made a review for them yet because I've been postponing it because I'm just so I don't know how to talk about those books, but I will do it. And then book 5 is my favorite. I gave it a 5 star. It's the only one I gave a 5 star, to be honest. And that one, oh my God, it had everything I could ever want. It had all the character development that came from the heirs and them helping each other. And then all these milestone relationships came to fruition. It was so beautiful. I loved it, but I was also devastated by the end of book 5. So it had everything, checked all my boxes in terms of the journey. So I love book 5. It's my absolute favorite. And then, so going into obviously book 6 and 7, we know how I feel about those. Book 7, I know how I feel about that book. It's shit based on what they do to you, and not a fan. And then we've been together for book 8 and obviously now 9 as well. And it just, as much as the story dragged out, I did enjoy the journey overall. Again, would recommend it. My favorite character, and will always be, is Tori Vega. I love her. I love her fight. I love her fire. I love her reserving her feelings and just not being as, I don't know, she's more guarded, and I think I'm relatable in that way, so I feel like that's why. And I love her relationship with Darius. They were my ultimate ship because they just always felt they were undeserving of love, and then when they finally got it, it was the sweetest apple ever when you finally get to taste it, and I was just so happy for them. And I feel like they are my favorite ship in this entire series. But yeah, I can't believe we're here. We're done. Will I pick up the prequel 4 books? I probably will in the next couple of weeks. I'll give myself some grace to separate from these a little bit. And then I'm probably going to pick up the ones with Gabriel, the prequel 4. I think it's called Ruthless Boys or something like that. I'm going to read those probably next. But yeah, thanks so much, guys. This has been a heck of a ride. Bye for now.